It's amazing what you can see through clean windows. So let's compare that to the view through my 40-year-old model that hasn't been cleaned. Quite astonishing. Hi everyone, welcome back to St Blazey Model World. I'm Roger, and in the third part of this mini-series on restoring our old Mk1 Hornby coach, it's time to tackle the bodywork, and that's the most visible part, I suppose, because that's what people really focus on when the rolling stockies are running around the track. So let's have a look, see how we get on. Well, now that we've cleaned our model, or the bodywork of it at least, the work that we've done on improving the interior should pay even greater dividends, because we will actually be able to see the results, and that's fabulous. So what product did I use on cleaning the bodywork of this coach? Well, always best to start with the soft options first, and the cleaning implement of choice is an old toothbrush. I've got several of these. They don't have to be very expensive. Even if you buy them new, you can get them here in the UK for 2 or 3 for £1 sterling. And the cleaning agent, a well-known brand of washing up liquid. There it is. Realise washing up liquid is a degreaser, and it will remove the dirt and grime from our models. Now, a little while ago I produced a video about cleaning your models, and the fact that dirt, dust and grime was probably damaging them and certainly devaluing them without you realising it. And a couple of people asked me at the time why I'd done that. Well, the results are clear for all to see. Of course, that takes some drying time. It doesn't evaporate like a spirit-based cleaner, and this body was cleaned as soon as the model was taken apart, and it's now fully dry. And you can see what we're left with. Some of the grey paint has come off from the roof, and the roof itself has dried in a sort of a rather patchy way. A little bit of old paint on there as well by the looks of it. So we've got to do something about this. So what comes next? Well, the easiest thing in the world to do would be to remove the glass from our bodywork, bring out the primer, give it a complete spray, and then break out the airbrush with our range of colour match paints from various offerings. But of course, in this day and age, the way things are, we're aiming to do things using what we have. If you have rail match paint or any other, stuff that's dedicated to the task, by all means use it. If you don't have that, please don't waste your money buying it. That's not to do those products down, but we're trying to produce a range of videos showing people what can be done with what we have in stock, and it's really important to me, and I hope to you as well. So we're going to make use of the paints that we have, and we're going to repair the roof and apply a little bit of weathering to the bodywork as well, and try to address the blemishes that are on the body with the paints that we've already got in. I did look at a number of photographs of Mk1 coaches when I started this project, both models from various manufacturers and photographs of the real thing, and I found a number of discrepancies, and you would do, of course, because bits were refurbished during the life of these models, the life of the real thing, and I'm sure they used what they had, as long as it was in broad keeping with the sort of terms of the main operator. So we're going to follow that procedure ourselves and use what we've got. So the first thing to do is to address the roof, and you can see that it's dried in a patchy sort of fashion from our wash procedure with the washing up liquid and toothbrush. I have to say I actually quite like that. I think it looks pretty realistic, but there is an area here that where the grey paint has either worn away. I didn't notice if it was worn away already or whether or not our washing has done that, but obviously we need to correct that. So what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to turn to my range of Tamiya products, and we're going to drop some masking tape just on the roof line, and we'll get some grey paint on there. I'm going to use the colour that I think is closest to what we actually have. And of course there's all these air vents on the roof as well that are now blue. Well, in every photograph I've looked at, they're the same colour as the roof, so we'll make those grey, and we're going to try and paint over this bit of paint damage here as well. And we'll do both sides, so we'll do that now, and let's see how it turns out. So that's our masking tape on. You can see it there just along the roof line, and this is the dedicated model making masking tape that I raved on about quite a few videos ago. This particular one is a Tamiya product. Doesn't have to be Tamiya, other people do make it, but it's available in a range of different thicknesses, and this particular one is 10mm. So let's break out the paint. So almost regardless of the result, this is what I'm going to go with. Tamiya XF69, and it's a dark grey matte paint. Let's see what happens. Now remember, when you've got masking tape applied, it is important never to brush into it. In other words, avoid doing this, because all that will occur is that you'll get a build-up of paint where the boundary of the masking tape is. What you really want to be doing is exactly the opposite. Brush away from the masking tape, like so. And if you're in any doubt, well, just spread it along. So we'll finish the rest of this and see how it looks. Now I can already see that the colour I've applied is too dark. What I'm going to do now is let that get to the point where it's almost dry, and then I shall just wipe away with a bit of tissue paper, and hopefully that will blend it out. So we'll see what happens. So now all we've done is taken off the excess dark grey paint, and I've used one of my diluted washes. You saw it in the last video when I applied some weathering to the chassis in the background here, and I've gone over the roof with a black diluted wash. So we're going to let this dry, see how it looks. So far, quite like the results. So there's the roof treated, and it looks okay. I'm quite happy with that. I have to say that it probably looks slightly worse on the camera than it does in real life. But we've covered up the grey, removed the paint, and we've still got a bit of a patchy finish, and I like it. It's realistic, and that's what we're aiming for. So the next thing to tackle is the window frames. Now when I looked at pictures of Mk1 carriages, I did notice that the outer edges of the window frames were in fact painted the same colour as the body of the coach, and in this case that's grey. But this section here, from there to there and up, and where there are windows on the grills, perhaps on the guard section here, I noticed that they were aluminium, and so we're going to replicate that now. And to do that, I'm going to turn to my trusty Pilot pen. This is a silver. It gives a nice fine coat of paint on the intended area, and we'll get back to you once that's done. I would say when you're using these Pilot pens, remember to give them a really good shake first, and just blot the end on a bit of tissue before you start applying it to the model. Otherwise you'll have paint flowing absolutely everywhere, and it will ruin the whole project. So we've now applied our silver paint to our grills on our windows, and further along on the opening sections of the windows as well, along and up. We've left the boundary of the window frame in the main body colour. The next thing to do is to look at the hinges, because the hinges in the real world would be greased, and for that we're just going to put on a tiny black mark to replicate the greased hinges. And for that I'm not going to use paint, I'm actually going to use a permanent marker. So here is my permanent marker. It's a Sharpie with a very fine nib. Let's get that into focus somewhere and then you can see it. And I'm just going to colour those hinges, both sides, every single hinge. There's quite a few of them, quite a few doors on this carriage. So we'll do that and then we'll come back and see the result. So there we are. And it might appear on the screen, I don't know if you can even see it. It is very subtle, but we've put black here, here and here, and of course the same there, there and there. And we've replicated that along all the doors on each side of this coach. Now, one thing that took me a little bit by surprise when I looked at photographs of Mk1 coaches was the weathering. And I had applied weathering to the chassis because it seemed obvious to me that that would be the natural place for it. What I wasn't prepared for was to see weathering around the bellows area here and in the lower part of the bodywork here and here. So I think it's time to break out some of my diluted brown paint and we'll apply a little bit of that as well. What have we got? Well, we've got, it's another Tamiya product, XF72 brown. Again, one of my paints that was nearly finished. I've diluted it down and that's going to be my weathering colour. So we'll apply some of that and see how it looks. So there we are. That's one end. I've done the other end as well, and as usual gone for a non-uniform look. Of course, dirt accumulation weathering, it doesn't apply itself uniform to each situation. Now, I have to say right now, if you don't want to weather your models, that's absolutely fine. I don't blame you. Models these days cost an awful lot of money, and it's purely a matter of personal taste and preference and choice as to how far you want to take it. I'm really not here to say this is right or this is wrong. We're simply refurbishing this product for a client and trying to give them a different look to their model railway. And what's wrong with that? Now, in this view, I've applied some of the same diluted brown paint to the bottom of the bodywork all the way along. I've done this on both sides, and my hope is that when this is adjoined to the chassis, when the whole thing is put back together, we'll get a bit of a flow of the weathering that's been applied. Well, there we have it, the final results. You'll have to excuse the background, lots going on as usual at St Blazey Model World. Here's my original unrefurbished example, looking pretty plain, and here is the customer's model, weathered, more detail applied, and of course we have real customers, real passengers inside there, and I'm quite happy with the result. What else could you do to it? Well, if you wanted to spend the money, as I've already mentioned, changing the wheels and the couplings might be one way to go. You could invest in some interior lighting, fairly cheap to buy. But as always, here at the channel, we're keeping costs down, making sure we do what we can to refurbish what we have rather than buy new. I hope you've enjoyed this mini-series. I've certainly enjoyed doing it. Join us next time on St Blazey Model World. Bye for now.